Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Zylon Success Case Stories. This is the first time that we are doing this. For those that don't know me, I'm Daniel, co-CEO and co-founder of Zylon. Zylon is the private AI platform for the enterprise. We provide an on-premise solution that ensures complete data sovereignty for companies that are concerned about how they want to run AI in their companies. And by doing this, we provide a full on-premise that is not using any third-party services. And we deploy everything on-premise in the infrastructure of our clients, allowing our clients to control everything, to have a cost-effective way of managing their LLMs, and to have, as I said, full control and data sovereignty over their data and our private AI strategy. Zylon is a commercial product, but I'm super happy today to be starting this series with a group of people from a public institution in the state that I will introduce in a minute, that they have leveraged PrivateGPT, and PrivateGPT was the open source that started everything for Zylon. It was the seed of our company today. PrivateGPT was the first project in the world talking about the concept of private AI, and we launched this project in 2023 by bringing or providing to the developer community a framework that was aimed to provide comprehensive infrastructure or development framework for creating private AI applications that you can run LLMs locally, and you are even capable of using it in a offline way. So today, PrivateGPT has more than 55,000 stars on GitHub, more than 7,000 forks, and almost a community of 6,000 people on Discord. So we are super proud of the community, and we really thank this community. And actually, part of this community is here today with me. So just to intro them, they belong to the tech team of the Goldman School of Public Policy, which is a graduated school from the University of California, Berkeley, and they prepare students for careers in public leadership. They will tell you more. And guys, if you can introduce yourselves, it will be super great. So who wants to go first? Darian? We have been talking for the longest time, so you can go.
Yeah, glad to go first. My name is Darian Hall. I'm the IT director at the Goldman School of Public Policy. Been there for about 5 years, but we're just diving into this AI stuff, so we're glad to share our story and hopefully provide some leverage for other folks who want to build the same thing. And with that said, I'll pass it off to Ronan.
My name is Ronan Sperlo. I'm an associate IT director here at the Goldman School, and been really excited to work on this project with this team.
Hi, my name is Eric Wilson. I'm the web developer at the Goldman School. And yeah, same thing. It's been really exciting to work on this project, and especially on the user interface side of things.
Awesome, thank you. I must say that I'm super happy to see real projects like this one come to life and serving and providing value to customers and leveraging the open source project. As I said before, we have more than 7,000 projects that have a fork PrivateGPT, but yours is a really interesting project. So today the idea is to know your project, know your experience working with a project like PrivateGPT, and know your interest and your focus on private AI, which is at the end of the day something that we lead in the space as a company, as Zylon. So first question is the most interesting one, or the most important one. I know what is ChatGSPP, with GSPP is the acronym for the Goldman School of Public Policy. But can you guys tell me what is ChatGSPP?
Ronan, did you want to?
I'll take this one. When we get into the technical stuff, I'll definitely hand it off. So ChatGSPP is essentially a custom-built chatbot with a PrivateGPT backend, and it scrapes all the web content for our very complex, many-paged website for students and faculty and prospective students and faculty to be able to navigate the content of our site, find the information that they need quickly, and also get source attribution, page source attribution for all of the information that it gives back. We definitely didn't want to build a chatbot that was just sort of a customer service bot that tried to sound helpful but didn't actually have any information. And so PrivateGPT and that as a backend helped us to make sure that the answers were helpful, relevant. And so yeah, we've had a really good response so far.
Great, thank you for that, Ron. So actually, one question before going into the technicalities of the project, I would like to understand, why did you think about this project? What was the pain? What was the necessity that you wanted to solve when you thought about working on this 1 year ago or something like that?
Eric, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I can start and then maybe can add on. I think, a couple things sort of inspired this project. For one, we're trying to alleviate just calls and kind of phone calls, especially that some of our colleagues who might not even have the expertise to be able to answer, we're receiving. So I'm thinking specifically like our front desk is maintained by our assistant facilities manager, who is fielding calls from prospective students a lot of the times, asking about their applications or just processes involved with that, which he would have no way to answer. So I think that was part of the motivation behind this, was to try to just provide another tool for people who desired information about our school, but just struggled to find it. And then just from kind of a web development perspective or user experience, I think we just wanted it to make it even easier and faster for people to find the information they were looking for on our website. As Ronan said earlier, it's a large page, large website with multiple thousands of pages. So the navigation gets you somewhere, but it's not always the easiest to find what you're looking for. So we were really intentional in trying to design a chatbot that not only gave relevance and helpful information, but provided the links and an easy way for people to get to the actual source of truth.
Cool. Actually, you mentioned several things that are super interesting, and they are typical use cases, like kind of supporting or providing a tool for the customer support team. In your case, it's the front desk or the people attending the phone calls or the emails. So how have you have the impact of ChatGSPP so far, and what kind of manual work have you removed or minimized? Have you, do you have some metrics on or KPIs on time saving, investment of these people, or maybe how these people has been able to redirect their focus on more impactful things because of not been dealing with so many phone calls or other kind of tasks like that?
Not yet. We hope to, but we definitely have the intention of starting to measure some of these things. We are measuring some of them, but we don't yet have any hard metrics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And from a qualitative point of view, maybe you don't have the metrics. What's the first feelings that you are receiving or feedback that you are receiving from either your people or your employees, the members of the school, and the people that wants to collect this information or retrieve this information in a easier way, as Eric was saying?
I think people are really excited about it. We've gotten a lot of excitement and interest from faculty, from staff, from students. We're definitely seeing, and maybe Darian can speak to the actual usage of the bot, just on a qualitative level. But we are seeing a lot of excitement. There was one example of where the LLM actually responded to somebody in their native language of, was it Laotian or Southeast? We didn't even know that it was capable of doing that, but it gave relevant information, it gave source attribution, and it did it in somebody's native language. So it's even surprising us, and I think that that has generated a lot of excitement about the possibility of this technology.
Yeah, that's actually amazing. Any other comment, Darren? I saw you nodding, something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, just on top of that, I guess from a qualitative perspective, just aside from the quantitative KPIs, we hear sort of word of mouth from our sort of like front desk service folks that they may get calls every here and there, but it's not as sort of flooding as before. Spam aside, a lot of the sort of useful and practical questions are seemingly being answered by the bot now. And it seems that a lot of students, faculty, and staff are starting to utilize it more for a lot of one-off questions that either we would be contacted for, or our facilities team will be contacted for, or our career services team may be contacted for. So once we get the metrics, we'll be glad to post like visualizations and all that. But qualitatively, so far, it's looking pretty practical.
Actually, you mentioned what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
I'm sorry. Yeah, could I just add one other sort of perspective? I think just another like kind of qualitative way to see what's going on. I've had more faculty and just other stakeholders, especially researchers, reach out to me now that they know that there's this chatbot that's citing their pages, and I think that basically they're experiencing more hope and optimism that people actually see all the really good research and content that they're putting on the website. So just in terms of another impact, I guess that way, I think people are excited for the idea that people really see their content and they're like, wait, how do I update the website again? And how can I get this really cool research up there? So just wanted to add that one more point.
Oh, that's actually a super good point, because I was gonna ask about that. Wait a minute, Annette is joining the session. So hey, Annette, welcome to the session.
Hi, sorry for being so late.
No problem at all. Actually, do you want to introduce yourself just to have it in the session to know you?
Sure. I'm Annette Rios, Associate IT Director, and I help Darian a lot with the sysadmin stuff.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So we were basically discussing so far about what is ChatGSPP and what has been the impact for both the people wanting to know more about the Goldman School of Public Policy, but also how your employees, your members are taking advantage of it. And actually, Eric, you mentioned something that I wanted to ask, so you actually answer it, which is this is not just helping people outside of the institution. This is actually helping the actual members of the institution to do their work faster, because they can actually consult their own information and their own sources, right? Okay.
100%. Yeah. I know that especially our staff members, we have like all of our events that we've had or recent news. So people have been using our website sort of as an archive almost, or a knowledge base, if you will. So yeah, definitely internally, it's helpful for our staff members to quickly be able to find something that happened in the past.
That's super cool. Cool. So moving from the product part of ChatGSPP to the journey until you have reached this point, I would like to start kind of before you started this project, and I would like to understand a little bit what was your previous experience with AI in general. It might be Gen AI, it might be any other kind of machine learning, deep learning, whatever other things that you maybe have been playing with in the past.
Well, for my part, I was basically an enthusiast. Using the sort of latest commercial models and seeing what's possible, integrating it into my personal workflow. But in terms of building an application, this is first for me. Definitely feeling empowered working with these fine folks who have some of the technical knowledge, but I'll let them speak to how they came to it. Darian?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I guess long story short, and it's probably going to surprise you guys, I had zero experience with AI before any of this. A lot of my experience, sort of like what intertwined with this, was I do a lot of Linux systems administration. And so when this project came up, and I've had some experience building projects from source, Brendan and Eric brought this up, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And from there, I just sort of dove in, and now we're here. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass that to Eric to give his opinion.
Yeah, I would say similar in that it was pretty limited. I had no development experience with AI prior to this project, and my otherwise, just using the commercial products. I guess using like GitHub Copilot to help me with my daily coding tasks and whatnot. But certainly just using what was available on the market. So yeah. And then what about you, Annette?
Yeah, pretty much the same as all of you. No prior experience whatsoever other than using it to help my emails sound more professional.
That's what we call daily Gen AI, which is actually something that it's probably the main usage that our users do of Zylon as of today. For example, our professional users, that's kind of the baseline. And from that point on, they build the rest of the cases. Like you can use daily AI for a lot of things, improving your emails, improving your communications, brainstorming ideas. So I think that's how all of us started. And in fact, I want to call out something really positive from this audience, which is, and I'm glad because we created PrivateGPT a couple of years ago with the main goal of democratizing the access to AI in a private and fully secure way. And I'm super happy to hear that with no previous experience developing AI applications, you were able to create this marvelous product. So, kudos to you guys because it's amazing that you were able to do that. So my next question is connected to this. So what was how was the approach to build this both from a technical point of view, but also maybe we can start with that and then move fully to the technical part. How did you convince the institution to invest on this? What was the policy or the mindset in GSPP around adopting private AI? Because Darian and I, we were discussing about this for a while, several months ago or last year when you started this, and it surprised me the clear mindset that you had around how important is private AI for you guys, and I would like to understand a little bit how did you arrive to that point.
Yeah, this project interestingly sort of morphed into the PrivateGPT backend. So I'll let Renan sort of start with the project I think that preceded this, and then I think we'll organically like roll into the sort of like modern infrastructure now.
Yeah, and I'll just start by saying that as a university, we have really strict rules, especially a public university. We have really strict rules about the handling of different types of data, and certain data is classified in a certain way that can't be shared with third parties. So we were already kind of coming from that mindset, the data security mindset, and making sure that whatever we built, even though this iteration of the project is all public-facing information, any infrastructure that we wanted to build, we wanted to make sure that it was extensible to other types of data that might not be allowed to be used with, a commercial third party without some kind of contract. So I think that mindset was there. Initially, we had wanted to build a chatbot to interact with our private knowledge base, so internal documents, documents that are sort of more staff and faculty focused. The issue that we ran into when trying to ingest all these documents is that they're in 5 or 6 different types of formats. Some of them were in Google Drive, some of them were PDFs, some of them were in other sort of proprietary web knowledge bases. And so trying to standardize that was a real challenge. And we actually ended up using the public-facing website as a sort of a test case, but it ended up being way more useful and powerful than we had anticipated.
That's cool.
I'll go ahead.
No, Darian.
Yeah, I think this is probably a good segue probably into why we went with the PrivateGPT backend. So I think when the project was like really in its infancy, when Renan mentioned building a chatbot for our private knowledge base, aka our intranet, our first issue being, how do we get all of this information in a single place that is A, easy to use, B, modular enough so that we can swap components when we need to, and C, something that's also somewhat like fault tolerant, like if it breaks, we can fix it. So all of that considered, I believe Renin just randomly sent me a PrivateGPT project one day, like, hey, check out this project. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I looked more into it. Turns out you guys provide GPU acceleration, which really solved our first problem, was we need answers fast. The second big thing, which really helped, I guess the main positive point of this project, which is citations. PrivateGPT by default provided citations. Interestingly enough, when we switched the vector database, we had to do some reworking of the citation mechanism so they could work properly with our GPU accelerated vector database. But once we got that working, we had fast answers, they're accurate, and they cited themselves. At that point, I think we all realized, wow, this project can go really far. And then we decided, hey, you know what? Let's ingest our entire website to see if it can generate accurate responses. And several months later, lo and behold, it started answering accurately and really fast. And, you know, after all the hours of labor, we ended up with a backend that was really useful, leveraging PrivateGPT and coupling that with its RAG mechanisms integrated with our sort of knowledge base, aka our website. With the sort of backend sorted out in a way, now we were like, okay, we need to build a front end that can make this, like, you know, actually pretty and make somebody want to use it. And so with that, I'll go and pass that there.
Yeah, I'll just add that in terms of why PrivateGPT, I think it certainly made my development experience a lot better. That you know, there's a super useful API that was built around, you know, all the services that PrivateGPT, you know, provides. And not only that, but you know, like the TypeScript SDK, as well as, you know, I found sort of another project that had built React components on top of you know, the TypeScript SDK. So all of that, you know, really made my experience and my process just so much easier and faster. So I think this project was, you know, kind of had just the perfect combination of a lot of things for us. So it sort of made the administration of actually deploying an LLM privately, you know, it provided very useful wrappers for that on the back end. But then also, you know, just the SDKs made building a custom user interface really smooth and pretty easy overall.
Super happy to hear that the development process was so good. That's mission accomplished. So.
Sorry, can I add? I'll add one more thing just for the back end to say thank you all for supporting Linux in a way that you do, because that made systems administration so much easier. Like between Annette and I handling the back end upgrade, it just makes our life so much easier. So thank you for Linux integration, especially with GPU.
Point taken. Thank you for your words. I think it's important because at the end of the day, when you go to professional environments, it's the kind of system that you're gonna find. So it was the right choice, and I think that the data points prove it. So that's good. Thank you for mentioning that. I have a comment or question about you mentioned, Eric, that PrivateGPT makes super easy to access the LLM in a local way. And you mentioned, Darian, about the vector database. So can you elaborate a little bit about what LLM are you using today? What vector database are you using? Because PrivateGPT, the same way, the commercial product Zylon is super modular, and you can decide which LLM to use. It's basically model agnostic. You can use whatever the vector database that you want. So how do you how did you face this in ChatGSPP? How did you pick the components that you were fit for or best fit for you?
So you want the recipe?
Yeah, I mean, what you can disclose. You don't need to disclose all the magic.
I'll let you know. I'm just kidding. So for our vector database, we ended up using Milvus. Milvus is
actually
very
we have
awesome.
friends of them, so up there. We have done some webinars together. So yeah. close
That's
friends.
awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, Milvus and their community was great in basically helping set up the vector database. I think the like the fix, or the quote unquote fix, or the add-on that I sort of had to change was essentially like the inner workings of like how the vector database was created and how certain collections in the database are created. That sort of allowed us to do the proper citations, like actually cite the file name and convert that to a URL from the front end side. So that's one side of why we chose that vector database as well, aside from GPU acceleration. For the LLM, it was a lot of testing, but we ended up settling on a quantized version of Llama 3.17b. It's really fast and runs really well on our current architecture. For the embeddings model, instead of using like a meta embeddings, we ended up using like a very basic Nomic 1.5 text embedding model. Very quick, and seems to integrate very well with model Meta Llama 3.17b. So that's the vector database, and that's the LLM. If I could remember the parameters, I'd give them to you, but
it's okay. It's okay. Thank you for sharing, actually, because I mean, and I'm glad that you are also, I mean, using Milvus, because as I said, we have a really close relationship with them, and we have done events together. So hello to them if they're watching this. And also about Nomic, we started with Nomic with PrivateGPT, and we are super glad to hear that you're still using that as an option, because it's super easy to integrate, super powerful, and it's that super a straightforward way to solve problems. And about Llama, I think that was kind of the obvious, or kind of the obvious choice, because Llama 3.1 they really provided really good models and super easy to use and super powerful. So actually, one thing that I want to maybe double down is because in Zylon for the commercial product, sometimes our customers are surprised when we tell them, hey, we can serve you with a Llama 3.1 or with a small language model from Mistral or from DeepSeek or Wen or Gemma. And they are surprised that small language models can be used in a so powerful way. Like, they are so used to hear 700 billion parameters, 600 billion parameters, that they think that that's the only way. And it is not, because at the end of the day, you can be way more cost effective and sustainable if you go for small language models. So what has been your experience about generating high quality results with a small language model?
Yeah, to be honest, it was a balancing act. It was a lot of trial and error and a lot of research before figuring out what are the correct sort of database parameters that we need to properly index all of this information hosted in the vector database. That I would say is really specific to the amount of content and the type of content that we're ingesting. So after several days of tweaking and testing and research, we did find a good balance between search scope and also search accuracy. And for a person who had basically no LLM experience before this, being able to jump in and do that it speaks towards the straightforwardness of PrivateGPT's configuration process. And also, even though it's easy to configure, it still gives you a lot of configuration parameters to work with, so that you can actually configure it in a way that's useful for somebody else's use case. So the smaller models, they're really useful if you're not having to ingest millions of documents. Then honestly, these quantized smaller models will do just fine, and it's been performing amazingly fast and also amazingly accurate.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll just add to that in some ways these smaller models, in the open source environment, give us so much more control that it's easier to get relevant and accurate information than it is to use an API to a model that has so many billions of parameters that it wants to go in a million different directions. And so having a smaller model in an open source environment where we have all these configuration controls allows us to really kind of almost create a virtual subject matter expert that is really just focused on what we want it to be focused on, and isn't going to make associations to so many other things that may or may not be what we want it to be talking about.
That's a great point actually, because when you are in the open source space and dealing with open source model, having a easy to configure way of doing things and a reduce amount of, at least at the beginning, set of parameters to tweak, that's super important to at least onboard the project. So I think that for sure, if you go to commercial versions like we do in Zylon, everything, all of that is already pre-configured by us, so it's easier. But it's I'm glad to hear that it was so easy for you guys to configure PrivateGPT, because this was actually a lot of our investment time on developing the latest major version of PrivateGPT, the one that you are using as of today, was focused on making this modular and easy to configure and easy to decompose and recompose in the way you prefer, and which is not the usual thing that you see in this kind of AI projects. And we put a lot of thinking on design patterns and stuff like that to make the architecture scalable and so on. So it's good to see that this is something that you code super fast and you leverage to do your own personal and customization that you needed for your specific use case. So that's super great. But I don't want to just focus on the bright side. So can you maybe share some challenges that you faced during the development, like something that you said, hey, this was probably the most difficult thing, and how you overcome them at the end? What were the 2-3 things that you really consider a challenge when facing this?
I guess I'll start the back end stuff. I think probably took the longest. So yeah, I think the first big thing was figuring out how to do citations in Milvus. I think by default, Milvus doesn't have the file name field in the database, so the bot wouldn't cite itself. It would just respond based on the ingested documents, but wouldn't say where it got it from. So that was the first big pain point to solve the citation issue. To solve the GPU acceleration issue, I'm not sure if I can make recommendations to PrivateGPT because the directions were straightforward. I think everybody's environment is just so different across Linux that perhaps adding some other alternative use cases could potentially mitigate some confusion, because I was jumping back and forth between PrivateGPT documentation and Milvus documentation, trying to figure out, oh, hey, how do these two work with each other? So I would say probably adding some documentation on how to configure Milvus to do all that would be a huge.
Do you know what? That documentation exists as of today. The sad thing is that it didn't exist when you were working on this, because we established our collaboration, I don't remember, maybe Q4 last year or something like that, or Q3, and they published the new documentation to integrate perfectly Milvus and PrivateGPT in end of Q4 or something like that. So probably too late for you guys. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry.
Well, hey, we managed without, but that was honestly my biggest pain point. Once I got over that pain point, everything else was smooth sailing. So I'll pass that to the front end to Eric.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said before, it really wasn't too painful to sort of adapt the sort of React demo project of how to build a user interface in React using the TypeScript SDK. I basically just took that and stripped it down a lot because we didn't need a full desktop user interface. We just needed a sort of pop-up chatbot. So it was mostly kind of removing a lot of components. Only just a couple small examples I can think of. We had issues across browsers, specifically with like on iOS with the streamed responses. So that took a while to figure out, but I did sort of come up with a workaround for that. And so now that it works on Safari and iOS and every browser I've tested so far. So that was probably the biggest thing to overcome. The other thing, and this is sort of related to the back end, and it became more of an issue for another project that we're working on, was generating the correct URLs, because I think PrivateGPT mostly uses the file name for like by defaults for attributions or for sources, but we really wanted, for a user experience perspective, to be able to provide URLs, to our sources, and so it took a little bit of kind of reworking the ingestion script a little bit, to be able to add custom document metadata that we could then cite on the front end. So that was probably the second one, but fortunately, the PrivateGPT is written in such a modular way that it wasn't terribly difficult to modify for our needs.
Good, good. And it's super interesting to see how you tweak the system and came up with a really cool solution. And by the way, you mentioned one thing that probably is the most or trickiest one when dealing with frontend and Gen AI, which is the streaming part. I feel you. I feel you. That's probably the trickiest one. And what about the hardware? Because this is usually something that concerns people. Was that something challenging to you? What kind of hardware have you put in place to make the ChatGSPP type of work?
Yeah, honestly, we just bought like a PC with NVIDIA GPU and called it a day. We have a RTX 4080 Super and one single, and that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But it's been pretty good to us so far.
It is. It is. I mean, glad to hear that. Actually, we have commercial customers working on top of a 4090 and on an L4, and they are using that by hundreds of users. So it can be done. I mean, the only problem is super concurrency. You have 100 people at the same time, same second, asking for an inference. In Zylon, you can manage that with queues and so on, but it's going to take some time to answer, obviously. But
Yeah.
other than that,
Also,
it's...
to that point, there's a good positive about Zylon. You guys sort of make it easy to spread across multiple GPUs, especially for like Milvus. So like that helps the processing power a bit, just in case folks want to like add GPUs in the future. Like it's possible to leverage their power. So that's been pretty helpful.
No, but it's good to hear that, because at the end of the day, this is something that for others that want to build their own, project on top of open source, they need to realize that it's not super expensive, because that kind of hardware, we are not talking here about 5 figures. We are talking about, way less. So
We got the server on sale, but it was only about like $1,000. So right, hey, $1,000 got us a really strong LLM.
Yeah. Prime Day is coming in July or something like that, so it's a good timing for buying these kind of things.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Good, awesome. So for the sake of time, I want to move the conversation a little bit to a more general. I would like to hear. I mean, at the end of the day, you are part of Berkeley. Big institution, super important projects that are happening there regarding AI. So I would like to, how AI adoption is being implemented in academic institutions. And Ronen mentioned before, I am a PhD on AI, so I was working at the university for 7 years, so I know how the thing goes internally in the university, and I was studying in a public university too. So as Ronen was saying, when you are doing research work, there are a lot of sensitive data that you don't want to expose, unless it's completely ready to be published in a paper or whatever. So how do you see the role of AI in the academic institutions like Berkeley and projects like PrivateGPT powering these institutions to have full control and again, data sovereignty over what they want to do internally?
I think it's still in a space of exploration and discovery right now. We have met with our CTO, the CTO of Berkeley, and he's really taking an applications sort of led approach, meaning finding projects like ChatGSPP or other people on campus who are using AI in a really interesting way, and resourcing those projects, and seeing how they can be expanded and replicated in other arenas. I think just like every other sector, everybody wants to utilize AI and nobody's really sure exactly how. And so, your product and, a lot of the open source community as well is really empowering lesser resourced institutions. Ours is a publicly resourced institution, especially these days that public funding is scarce. So, having that open source element to what you do is, I think, really great. But yeah, does anyone else Want to talk about AI at Berkeley, Annette?
It could be Berkeley or it could be academic in general. I think it's an interesting topic because I think it's changing a lot of things of how we face the creation and innovation in these institutions.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of talk here at Berkeley, especially how AI is going to affect academic, like professors and stuff. We work a lot with the professors. Some are all for like, it being a tool for students, like in their toolbox. Others are like, oh, like this is almost like them taking the easy route. So it's very divided right now. We're part of an AI community here at Berkeley, and they'll have like talks about how AI is like in the classroom and stuff. And it's really interesting department to department, like because one department is all for AI and then versus another department who it wants like a lot of like regulations on it. So as any university, it is always divided, and especially here at Berkeley, people love to argue.
That's interesting always. Any other comment, Eric, Darian?
Yeah, I'll just add on to kind of what Annette is saying, in that, I mean, like any large university, there's just so many different departments, I think, which is why I think our CTO is trying to empower specific departments with specific use cases, because just realistically, and this was kind of something you're asking about, I think, earlier in the call, like just sort of the university's like stance towards AI or their policies that we had to navigate. I think really, the reason we were able to take off with this project is we happen to work in a department with a dean, with a leader who is very future focused and enthusiastic about sort of the possibilities. But not every department is like that. So we kind of I think we're lucky to sort of be able to be in that environment, and it's going to take departments with specific use cases that will ultimately sort of demonstrate to the rest of the community. I think that's how it'll be adopted more widely. It's not going to be central, like this monolithic approach at all. I think it's going to be specific departments that prove the powerfulness of it and hopefully be able to provide those solutions to the rest of the community.
Makes sense. Darian, any thought on this?
Yeah, totally. I guess just to wrap up the point about the distributed nature of PrivateGPT and Zylon, and also UC Berkeley, we're all such different departments with different opinions. Like Eric mentioned, we're hoping for our use case and our example to sort of be a template of other departments who could potentially leverage this for their own use case, so that we don't end up with a sort of centralized AI authority, which sort of isn't as transparent as we would like to be. So we're hoping for this project to be a good starting point for folks who want to build a transparent AI tool, also in a private manner that abides by UC Berkeley information security policy and data recovery policy, which it does. So we're hoping to be a good template for everyone, and we're hoping to change a few departments' minds when it comes to leveraging AI tools in their use cases.
I'm sure you are already the template to follow. So it's again, as I mentioned, a really impressive project what you have built, and I think it's super interesting. So just to wrap up, you were talking about the future. You were talking about how AI, how you can become an example for other departments. So what are your future plans for ChatGSPP, and what other initiatives related to AI do you have in mind beyond ChatGSPP, for GSPP itself, or a more bigger scope that you might be involved, if you can disclose anything?
Yeah, I think we can talk about that. So our dean David Wilson of the Goldman School got really excited about the potential of AI once he saw what ChatGSPP was doing. And we are now engaged with the Public Policy Institute of California, which is an institute that collects survey data from Californians every year and has for many decades. And they have this really deep well of knowledge and data that they generate sort of human readable reports once a year. But that data is really under leveraged, underutilized, and really valuable. And so we're now working on a project to leverage large language models and use retrieval augmented generation to leverage that data in a more useful way. So we're at the very beginning stages of that project. So we don't really know how we're going to build it at scale yet. But it's definitely, the roots of this project are rooted in PrivateGPT and this backend that we've built for this first project. So that innovation is bringing in resources for more innovation.
Super good, super good. Any other comment or thought about future or what is coming?
I'm not sure how much we can talk about that.
Okay,
but
okay. Let's keep it for the next season.
The future is bright.
Yeah, the future is bright. That's good. That's good. Okay, so again, I really appreciate your time today. So I'm gonna close with some ideas that you have mentioned today. So the first thing that first of all, super happy to have a clear example of how to leverage open source technology, how to be technologically independent and build your own private AI platform that provides transparency, as Darian was saying, that provides control, that allows you to build the infrastructure that you need, being cost effective. That's something that I have been hearing all along. And another thing that I think is an interesting remark from what you have been saying so far is that this is not helping only people wanting to know more about your institution, but also it's helping your members to work better, to work faster, to work more efficiently. So that's at the end of the day, as Ronan mentioned before, people is still exploring and understanding what the Gen AI can do for them. But obviously, something that is an obvious value is efficiency and productivity boost. This is something that all of us we have been enjoying since the first version of ChatGPT appeared, and that's something that now we can have completely controlled by us without relying on third parties. So I think that that's kind of the interesting thing. And I'm super glad to hear the plans that you have in mind at GSPP, but also in a global way at Berkeley. So super eager to see what is coming. I'm pretty sure with this talented group, something interesting is coming in the short term. So I will be, paying attention to that. And with that, I don't know if you have any final remarks, any final comments that you want to make before closing the session. No? Okay, cool. So then I'm gonna again encourage people to go there to play with open source projects. There's a lot of things today. We have mentioned PrivateGPT, obviously. We have mentioned Milvus. We have mentioned Nomic. There's a lot of things there that you can use both in Linux, also in Windows. If you want to go for that, you can use Olama, for example. So there's a lot of things that could make easier for people to jump into a topic that is not as difficult as you could think, at least in the surface. In the inner layers, it could be quite difficult. And obviously, if you want to go for a commercial solution, happy to talk about what Zylon is doing. Everything that has been discussed today is managed by us, so you don't have to be worried about that. And as we like to say, Zylon follows the same spirit as PrivateGPT, but as a commercial project with a lot of additional features, and it provides the AI platform for day one, but also for day 1000, because you have that customization level that you can develop on top of it, and that's part of the spirit of Zylon too, that was inherited from PrivateGPT. So again, guys, congratulations for the great work. Congratulations for bringing innovation so early to a public institution. I'm always proud about hearing that. And thank you again for being here today. I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate all the details that you have shared. Happy to be in contact, to be doing things together in the future if you want to iterate on this kind of technology. And yeah, and I will be paying attention to all the bright things that are coming, as Darian was saying. Happy to see the new season of this TV show. Super hooked to it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to bringing, hopefully, the world a better product where we can sort of continue democratizing this sort of information. So looking forward to sharing that.
That's the goal. That's the goal. Let's put this in everybody's hands. So thank you again for your time, guys. And again, really, really nice to have you today, and really nice to have this chat. It has been a pleasure to spend some time with you today.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a nice one.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye. Take care.